Morning, everyone.
Hi everyone. Hope you're all well and thank you for joining. We'll just give it a few more minutes because I know we're only on 10 o'clock on the dot now, so we'll just maybe give it another couple of minutes just for anybody else to join us, and then Liam and I will crack on with the webinar. Okay, brilliant. We might as well get started then, guys. So, first of all, thank you for joining the webinar. Know how busy everybody is at the moment, so really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. We won't keep you long, honest. Liam and I will probably speak to you for about half an hour, and then we've got 15 minutes at the end just to answer any questions. So please feel free to use the Q&A function on the webinar to ask any questions as we go along, and we'll answer all of them at the end for you. So is TA screwed along with your budget? So just want to start off this grey Thursday morning by reading some cheery stats. Looking at Google Trends, the term redundancy has been searched for on average 3 times per month more this year than it was last year. And recruitment freeze is its most popular since COVID enforced lockdowns from Google searches. So it's not the greatest outlook, and it's something that we've seen in the media as well. I think we all know since everyone's favourite chancellor made the changes in the budget last year and Trump's fickle use of tariffs, it's been a really hard market out there, as we can see by some of these recent news stories. It's not been an easy ride for recruiters. So really just kind of want to start off by just asking a bit of a question, really, get a flavour of the people who are in the room. Has your budget or the budget of your team gone up, stayed the same, or gone down? Amy should be able to do a poll on here now, which will come up so you can vote. So if you guys can just vote your team, the budget that your team sits under, has it gone up, has it stayed the same, or has it gone down compared to last year? These are just coming in now. Brilliant, 16 responses. So I think that's everybody. Interesting, not one single person said up, which isn't massively surprising. Good that actually more are saying the same than down. I think, speaking to a lot of our clients, it seems that budgets have been cut. Obviously, if it has stayed the same and the cost of everything has gone up, then in real world terms, it is almost like your budget's gone down as well, which I guess is probably why we're all here today, really, to kind of look at what we can do about that. So on that note, I'll pass over to Liam.
So I think it's fair to say that Steve's painted a lovely picture to start the morning, almost as grey as it is outside. I promise from here it's all positive stuff. And what Steve and I want to talk to you about today is how to get more for your budget, I guess, how to get more in your talent attraction for your budget, whilst continuing to still attract the best talent and still build that equity in your employer brand. And the tips we're going to go through today, we use them. That's why we're talking about them. And we typically see this give a real boost to ROI, 2.5 times boost to ROI in general. And it doesn't always have to come from extra budget either. This can be about using your budget differently to achieve that ROI. Before we get into it, I guess a bit of a hello and why should you believe us? So hi everyone. I can see a few names. I think a few people I know, a few people I've not met before. I'm Liam. I'm the creative director at Creed, and I guess you should believe me today and everything I'm talking about because I get to use my talent comms experience, my real interest in how people think, and my probably too much of a love for advertising to help businesses every day to think about their challenges differently and try and solve them a little bit differently than you would typically approach them.
Well, thanks, Liam. And I'm Steve. So again, I know some of you on the call, but probably won't believe it with my youthful looks, but I've actually been in the industry for 18 years now, being a client partner at Creed Comms for the past 2 years. And before that, I was a media director at my previous agency. So a lot of experience and expertise under my belt in the employer branding and recruitment marketing sector. So today we'd just like to chat you through the Smarter Spend playbook, step by step, thinking differently to attract top talent when budgets are tight. We're going to use some real life examples to bring this to life. And yes, it says at the bottom here, to do more with less, that might temporarily mean ditching the comfort blanket and actually getting off the job board hamster wheel and just working a little bit differently. So we're going to talk you through how to better understand your audience, using creative with purpose, and then also how to actually get a better return from your media. So start off with how to better understand your audience. So obviously there's a lot of recruitment experts in the room, but I just almost like to strip things back at the start of the playbook and just challenge you really and kind of ask, how well do you actually really know your potential candidates? When was the last time you checked? How much data do you have to back up your current strategy? Here at Creed, we have access to a whole host of research facilities. No matter the size or scale of the challenge, we can help you get off to the possible start. So kind of things to actually ask yourself really about your target audience. Do you know who they are? Do you know their age, demographic, economic background? This is all accessible data that we can get, but how often do we actually review that for your audience? Do you know where they are? So, we can do things like heat mapping to get the better ROI. We can understand what universities or colleges they're likely to attend. So actually where your talent is located. And also, very importantly, what channels they use. We can external market to understand what channels you're using. We can use Nielsen data to see how it's consumed. We actually commissioned our own research last year, and it highlighted that only 9% of the talent market is actively looking for jobs at any one time. So if you are solely relying on job boards, then over 90% of the market won't see you. And we're going to come into media later and talk about where you can actually go to where your audience actually are. So that's channels to use. And then, what they want. So what do your people want? What are the points of difference that make you stand out? And are your attraction materials catering for this? And then finally, what do your people expect? So what are you offering? What are your competitors offering? What is the give and the get from your EVP? So here we've basically created a whole suite of external research facilities that can help you understand your audience. So this can be things like focus groups, pulse surveys, external market research, creative testing, LinkedIn, Indeed, Horsefly, Nielsen, SimilarWeb, and the list goes on and on. But no matter how big or small, you should be finding this as a Bible for your candidates. For things like tweaking job copy, producing deep dive reports, no matter what the budget is, we can help you with this. And we found with our clients, it's actually helped cost avoidance of hundreds of thousands of pounds across them. Fundamentally, it underpins our creative and media strategy to provide a far greater return. And talking of creative strategy, I will pass back to Liam to talk about that.
Yes, Steve. So the second part of the Smarter Spend playbook is about using creative with real purpose. And that's, I think often when you think creative, you maybe think sort of imagery, but that can be images, it can be job ad copy, it can be videos, it can be some sort of experiential onboarding thing that you've got there. At the end of the day, it's kind of the face of your attraction, and it's what candidates are either going to really engage with and really remember, or what they're going to forget really quickly. And I think nowadays creative advertising, I think it's a huge part of employer branding and talent attraction. And I really do think, gone are the days of, metaphorically I'm saying sticking a job ad in the window. I see it sometimes nowadays, not often though. But even things like putting it on a job board and hoping for the best. As Steve just mentioned, only 9% of the population are looking for a job at any one time. So I think we kind of need to think about it differently. Wouldn't it be lovely if we could just do this and all of our problems would be solved all of the time? I think whilst that sounds a lot simpler, I would argue that it's a lot less interesting. And I really do think, today, creative advertising, I think, is not just a nicety. I think it's really a necessary thing to do. I remember projects where people had budget left over, so they wanted to do a nice creative project. And I don't think that's really how we should be thinking about it anymore. It should be more as a real necessary part of our attraction. There's a few reasons for that. Excuse me. I think your competition are doing it. Your competition are out there with really creative ads, building a reputation for themselves, engaging and inspiring their audience. So you've got to kind of keep up with that. Our audiences nowadays are way more media literate than they've ever been before. They know how to search, they know how to filter, and really importantly, they know how to ignore adverts better than ever because we're so bombarded with them. And they know what's real, they know what's not real, which again is quite important in this world of AI. People are kind of becoming more skeptical than they've maybe ever been before. And I think finally with that rise of AI in adverts, it's making the need for us in talent attraction and employer branding to make sure that it is real. It is really people-centered, really creative messaging that I guess breaks free from that AI ad stuff that's out there. And I think, AI ads might sell a widget on Temu really well, but I think, jobs are much bigger than that. Jobs are 9 to 5, 5 days a week, 48 weeks of the year, maybe 40 years of your life. Sells, that's what we're talking about here. So we really need to give it some creative thinking that is rooted in real human truths. And I think that's a great way to go with this. And if all that doesn't sound hard enough already, with our competition, etc., we're also up against like all of this other attention grabbing stuff out there. We are in an attention economy. So we really need to think about how to attract people away from, what's up next on Netflix, that TikTok scroll, that notification that's coming, that email that's asking for their attention. Because again, Steve mentioned, 91% of people aren't necessarily looking for a job and they're looking elsewhere, being distracted by different things. So how do we get in front of those? Because they might be the best people. We need to think then, how do we outthink them? How do we outthink everyone else who's vying for our attention, all of our competitors who are looking to attract the same people as us? And I think the good news for us is that most ads out there, and I'll go as far as saying are rubbish. Most ads not worth paying any attention to. You can scroll straight past them and ignore them. Things are starting to kind of look pretty similar nowadays. And I think, people are maybe afraid to try something different, try and go off on a different direction and maybe go against the grain a little bit. And this brings us neatly into using creative with purpose. I think when we make creative ads that are rooted in that human truth, they can move people and they can really elevate you above the competition. And I always look at creative ads and make sure they've got 3 traits. And I'm going to talk you through each of those traits. One of them is they should be smart. The next is they should be emotive. And finally, they should really be effective. If they're not effective, they're not doing the job that they were made to do. So I'm going to talk you through that with a nice example, real life example of some work that we did for everybody's favorite courier, Evri. So first you've got to be smart. Creative's got to be smart. And with Evri, they had a challenge, and their challenge to us was that they had to hire more part-time and flexible couriers. And if anyone's in this industry looking for couriers, drivers, you know that it's a dwindling audience, and an audience with extremely high competition. And because of the likes of Just Eat and Evri and Amazon and all of the other delivery businesses out there, it's got quite a low commitment to it as well. So we were smart about how we approached our audience, or you could maybe say stupid, because what we did is we defined an audience that didn't want to work at Evri. They had no interest in this job at all. They were instead pursuing other passions. They were maybe full, caring for family members, or a part-time care on the side, or maybe they wanted to be a personal trainer or something fancy and modern, and they wanted to stream games and earn money from that. But where they found themselves is they needed cash to support that dream. They needed to pay the bills still. They needed to do the food shop. And at the moment, that passion that they had, that pursuit of that passion, wasn't doing that for them. And we realised that Every's competition likely hadn't defined this as an audience. They weren't really going after them. That's how we were smart about it. Next, we had to be emotive. So we created this idea for Every, this idea of the Every hustle. And it was this idea that you could balance your passion, your the thing that you really wanted to be doing in life, with a job at Every. So we made it real by showing up in people's lives, showing them how you can deliver in the day and stream in the evening, or delivering on the weekends and be a hairdresser during the week. And it showed the audience that these flexible shifts could work for them. It was quite low commitment, but for this audience, it became quite high reward because it gave them the thing that they actually wanted, rather than the job that we were advertising. So it's kind of going a bit against the grain here. I guess, I'm going to guess a few of us on this call have maybe never thought about that before, advertising a job by not necessarily advertising the job, but showing how instead it can really affect someone's life in a positive way. And finally, we had to make sure this was going to be effective. And Steve's going to get into some of the media aspect in a moment, but this really was effective. We made sure that the audience understood it. We made sure it had a really clear call to action. We use this line full-time, part-time, or some of the time to, I guess, deliver what everyone wanted. Everyone wanted really flexible people to go and work there. But also that's what the audience wanted to hear as well. They wanted to hear that they had permission to not do this constantly, not be full-time every career. They wanted the permission to leave when they wanted to, and when their passion had started to earn them enough money to do so. And this massively improved the performance over previous efforts. That 2.5 times ROI increase I mentioned at the start there came through in this. They got a huge amount more clicks, and interestingly, a really big reduction in their cost per hire because of this. And it really became the key for them to stand out in this really cluttered market, and attract the people that they needed to do so in this instance.
Well, thanks, Liam. And then the final part of the playbook is how to get a better return from your media. As mentioned, I was media director before here, so this is the bit that I get really geek about and probably talk to you for hours on it. But this is probably the easiest to quantify, and some of the things to do is free. It doesn't cost you anything. So kind of before we get into media channels and things, it's worthwhile setting time aside to analyze these things. So make sure that you have access or get regular reports provided to you on how your website's performing. It's your shop window, and it's helping you sell your product. It's helping you sell your job. So you need to know how well that's working. Make sure that all your creative or your jobs or your links are tagged, fully tracked, and then we use that data to continually optimize our campaigns. And then if there are any pressure points or bottlenecks, use this data to build a business case rather than accepting the status quo. It might mean a little short-term pain, but definitely for the long-term gain. So basically just need to stick to the mantra of rewarding performance. And being smart with your media investment, it doesn't mean spending more money. So, it's rather than the scattergun approach, the whack-a-mole, it's actually being targeted, and it is that sniper rifle rather than the scattergun. It's making sure that we're reaching the right people. And not only will it help you target those people, but it will help them find you organically as well. In the current market, gone are the days putting all your eggs in one media basket and hoping it can cover all bases. There's so much more variety and nuance, and also candidate expectations have changed as well. And when we do this with our clients, it leads to immediate results. I mean, the examples on the screen here are things that we've worked on in the last 6 months. We've helped Northern with their DEI challenges. We've helped JCB with some highly technical engineering roles, DPD for their volume recruitment over peak, and Lidl to help manage their talent pipeline and candidate flow. So these are all very different things, and it's using that purposeful creative that Liam spoke about, but then also with highly targeted media that is reaching these candidates in the right places where they are. And let's be honest, it's not like the alternative is fun. Who enjoys posting job adverts? It's not fun. It doesn't provide any long-term brand equity or real opportunity to stand out when the market is so tough for internal recruitment teams. Like Liam said before, everything looks the same. Let's do something different. And this is just kind of an example of some of the different things we've done for our clients recently. All of these have delivered award-winning results, given personality to the respective brands, and most importantly, have done more with less. They've answered the brief, they've delivered the applications and the hires that these clients needed. And the reason we can be so confident and we know that this is work is because everything we do is tracked. It's like your media team should be fully transparent with where every single pound has been spent and then what this has delivered. And this approach allows you to be flexible with channel usage, budget allocation for any given audience, rather than running with a one-size-fits-all approach or being locked into contracts that aren't providing you with ROI. And that's it. So I'll pass back over to Liam to do the summary.
Yes, Steve, and thanks, guys. That's the Smarter Spend playbook for you. Three steps, three things we use here every day at Creed with all of our client challenges that we get to try and get more for your budget, I guess. So what I'd really like today is for you to kind of leave here inspired to challenge that thinking on your audience, to question whether you really know them and whether you can get under the skin of them any more than you already have done, to leave thinking that you can go away and be a bit more brave with your creative to make it smart, emotive, and most importantly, really, really effective. And finally, as Steve was just saying then, seek out your audience, seek out the best talent. Let's not bob it on a job board and hope that the best person for the role is in that 9% looking on Indeed that week. Let's get our ads in front of people, get our message in front of people that maybe necessarily aren't looking, who very, very possibly could be the best people for you. So thank you very much for your time on this Thursday morning. If there is any questions, there's a Q&A function. You can go in there, type them. Steve and I can answer them. I guess you can make them semi-difficult. We've both had a coffee now. And if there's not any questions, then feel free to get on with your day. And we're always around if you want to get in touch with us on LinkedIn or bob us an email. We can get in touch and have a chat about anything.
Brilliant.
Give it a few minutes just in case any questions do come in.
Thanks, guys. You're very welcome.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. And thanks for the feedback as well. Really appreciate it. Looks like no questions, but thanks for your time and we'll see you soon.
Cheers, guys.